Kids, did I ever tell you the story of South Africa's independence?
No, Grandpa.
Well,
Can I go?
no, Jared, I still have custody over you for 3 more hours. It all started back in 1910, when I was just a wee little boy of 17.
How old are you, Grandpa?
Doesn't matter. Anyway, back then the British had formed the Union of South Africa. Throughout the history of South Africa, there have been 3 moments when a form of independence was reached. They come throughout a period of about 100 years. The Dutch were the first to hold power in South Africa. In 1652, Dutch sailors made the country's first European settlement at Cape Town, creating a refreshment post for their trading ships passing the Cape. The British Navy took control of the settlement in 1795 and imposed unpopular taxes. This encouraged the original Dutch settlers to move inland, away from South Africa. South Africa as one country came into existence in the early 1900s under British rule. Prior to that, it had been a series of smaller countries under various colonial and independent governments. One of these was the Zulu people, who fought at length with the new powers for their independence. The fighting came to an end with the British control and signing of the Union of South Africa in 1910, which created the modern country and its provincial borders. This was the first time South Africa gained a form of independence, because now it had the legal name South Africa, and not just a part of Britain. With the enactment of apartheid laws in 1948, racial discrimination was institutionalized. Race laws touched every aspect of social life, including a prohibition of marriage between non-whites and whites, and the sanctioning of white-only jobs. In 1950, the Population Registration Act required that all South Africans be racially classified into one of 3 categories.
I know! Black!
Yes, Jared, black. White. Or colored of mixed descent. The enforcement of apartheid ensured that South Africa became internationally isolated during much of the 20th century, as the privileged white government restricted the rights of the majority non-white groups. In 1961, South Africans gained independence from British control. This was the second independence, when South Africa became completely separate from Britain. However, the apartheid was still in place. During the 1980s and 1990s, the South Africans, primarily the black majority who were still being severely repressed, pushed for the end of apartheid, and many movements were made. The African National Congress directed resistance to the policy. The ANC was led by Nelson Mandela. His government focused on dismantling the legacy of apartheid through tackling institutionalized racism, poverty, and inequality, and fostering racial reconciliation. In 1962, Mandela was arrested, convicted of sabotage and conspiracy to overthrow the government, and sentenced to life imprisonment and the Rivonia trial. Mandela spent 27 years in prison near Cape Town. His release in 1990 and a return to democracy saw a new multicultural nation led by the ANC. Mandela became the first black president of South Africa, serving from 1994 to 1999. He oversaw the end of apartheid, the third and final form of independence in South Africa. Now blacks had equal rights with the whites. Finally, blacks had the rights they had lost 100 years before. And that, kids, is how Africa gained its independence.